Up next on Valley News Live at 10, immediate changes for the country under President Joe Biden. We'll break them down.
We'll also have reaction from our U.S. senators to the new executive orders.
Plus, why locals took to the streets in Fargo. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
President Joe Biden didn't waste any time. Shortly after being sworn in, he was in the Oval Office signing executive actions.
Reporter Whitney Wild has the latest for us from Washington, D.C.
With the state of the nation today, there's no time to waste. Get to work immediately.
President Joe Biden signing 15 executive actions and 2 agency actions targeting many of former President Trump's policies.
Some of the executive actions I'm going to be signing today are going to help change the course of the COVID crisis, and we're going to combat climate change in a way that we haven't done so far.
And addressing the letter Trump left him.
Because it was private, I will not talk about it until I talk to him, but it was generous.
Democrats have officially taken power in the executive and legislative branches of government. Vice President Kamala Harris making it official, swearing in 3 new Democratic senators, including John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock of Georgia, who tipped the balance of power in the Senate.
And that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Now, in the tradition of firsts, the first White House press briefing of the Biden-Harris administration, highlighting the president's new executive actions and their plan to tackle the pandemic.
The issue that he wakes up every day focused on is getting the pandemic under control.
And setting a new tone with the press.
There will be times when we see things differently in this room, among all of us. That's okay. That's part of our democracy.
In Washington, I'm Whitney Wild.
In all, President Biden today signed 17 executive actions, and more could be coming in the days ahead. Valley News Team's Stacey Van Dyke is here with details. Stacey?
Andrea, after just half a day in office for President Biden, there's a lot to break down. On the minds of many is whether or not there will be a nationwide mask mandate. At this point, the president has only said that he's requiring the use of masks in all federal buildings. He wants to extend bans on evictions and foreclosures. He's calling on several federal agencies, asking them to take steps to extend the CDC's federal moratorium on eviction for non-payment of rent until at least the end of March. It's estimated that 25 million people are at risk of losing their homes. The president is also asking Congress to approve a COVID relief bill that would provide $35 billion in rent, utilities, and homelessness relief. President Biden already this evening signed an executive order to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. He's also revoked a presidential permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, a move North Dakota U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer is calling an early mistake. Other moves today, halting construction and funding on a border wall. President Biden is also working to end a ban on Muslim travelers and include everyone, even those here illegally, in the 2020 census. Mike?
All right. Thanks, Stacey. With these executive orders comes a call for action. A Fargo group, People Over Profits, took to the streets of Fargo this evening, telling us they'll be marching until the president follows through on these promises. Valley News Team's Courtney Lockie explains.
People Over Profits calling for change, one they're hopeful is on the horizon.
I think the country is going through some mourning right now and some grief. I think we've all just kind of been able to have a breath of relief.
They took to the streets of downtown Fargo for 2 hours in celebration of Inauguration Day. But they say a new president in the White House is just the beginning and that change has to come from the people.
We are participating in the National Day of Action, which is to hold Biden accountable and make sure that he follows through with his promises.
Promises like the executive orders Biden signed hours into the job, including COVID relief, laws protecting those facing eviction, and revoking permits for oil and gas pipelines.
All we did was change hands. We didn't change the system, and that is the #1 thing we need to go for.
Justice! We want to make sure that we're making enough noise as possible for the voiceless.
For this group, the noise will continue until they see change from our city, state, and nation's leaders. In downtown Fargo, Courtney Lockie, Valley News Live.
The group tells us they'll join protesters this weekend in Minnesota at Enbridge Line 3 pipeline.
North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer also weighed in on the Paris Climate Accord. He said if the right moves are made, it's not bad for the country.
Well, I've always thought that rejoining the accord could be a success and a unifying moment if the president and his team do it the right way. Abandoning our leadership on the world stage only benefits our competitors. But being on the world stage and just caving to them is even worse. So if President Biden reworks our pledge, and then defends American interests, protects taxpayer dollars, focuses on a bipartisan area of agreement, like, for example, nuclear or carbon capture, utilization, and storage, that'll prove to be a prudent move.
North Dakota's other U.S. Senator John Hoeven issued a statement after President Biden rescinded the presidential permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, saying in part the pipeline has been delayed for too long, forcing the energy industry to use transportation methods that are less efficient and more costly. This pipeline is a critical infrastructure project that is already under construction, providing good jobs to Americans and helping bolster economic growth. Senator Hoeven joined Senator Steve Daines and his colleagues in urging President Biden to allow construction of the pipeline to continue.
North Dakota Democratic Party Chairwoman Kylie Overson reacted to President Biden's speech today positively and appreciated the president's call for unity. She also says many of the incoming president's plans could benefit North Dakota.
But I think that Biden's plans, the things that he's bringing forward with his economic plans, looking at energy and all of the above energy strategy, and all of the things that he's looking at in many different sectors will bring back jobs that we need, especially in communities in North Dakota, where we've got, struggling rural economies, small towns.
Before leaving office, President Donald Trump granted clemency to two people with ties in the FM area. Both were in prison on drug-related charges. Trump commuted the sentences of 46-year-old Cassandra Kasowski of Moorhead, who has served more than 7 years of an 18-year penalty, and also Mary Roberts, who family members tell us has ties to the FM area. She served 10 years of an 18-year sentence for a nonviolent drug offense. Families tell us they have been writing letters to the Trump administration and were thrilled to hear of her release today.
President Biden said in his first 100 days he wants 100 million people vaccinated for COVID-19. Right now, the CDC says more than 13 million people in the U.S. have been vaccinated, and there are millions more doses waiting to be given out. But the agency worries the demand for the vaccine will outpace the supply.
Officials in Minnesota have set up 10,000 vaccine appointments, even though many people are saying they got error messages or their calls didn't connect. IT says it's working to improve the process. Today, the Health and Human Services Committee chair also acknowledged the limited number of doses, but said teachers should now be a priority.
I feel like we're a little scattershot on the education rollout, and so I want to publicly say that I would be supportive of anything that's allocated to education being focused on those schools that have been in distance learning for the longest period of time, so that those teachers feel the most comfortable going back to work.
The Minnesota Health Department says the number of doses are spread out across the state's 9 education regions based on how many teachers there are in each.
Some changes could be coming to how North Dakota regulates hemp. The law requires the state to sample and test hemp products. Under a new bill, the state will now be able to charge a fee for that testing. The bill would also allow North Dakota labs to consider for the procurement process instead of those samples being shipped to the lowest bidder in the country. Ag Commissioner Doug Goring said the changes are more in line with what the federal law states.
Federal law supersedes state law anyways. It's easier just to make reference to federal law, so this bill does that.
Once the bill is passed by both the House, Senate, and signed by the governor, it's eligible to go into effect immediately.
A North Dakota lawmaker requested that a bill whose aim was to help increase adoption rates be withdrawn. The bill would have offered financial assistance to individuals facing the medical costs for the birth of a baby who is given up for adoption, but only if the child was going to a heterosexual couple. Those opposed to the bill said it is discriminatory, but added they would be fine with it if the requirement that the couples be heterosexual was removed.
Single parents, unmarried couples, and LGBTQ persons have been providing loving, nurturing, and healthy environments to children and should be afforded the same opportunities to adopt.
Representative Jeff Hoverson asked the House committee overseeing the bill to kill it, saying it needs further research. The House Human Services Committee voted unanimously to give the bill a do not pass.
Still ahead tonight on Valley News Live at 10. A grocery chain is joining others, encouraging their employees to get the coronavirus vaccine with an incentive.
But first, in weather, Hutch has details on a downward swing in temps and some more snow heading our way.